Hello dear friends, welcome to the second episode of my YouTube The Legend of Cao Cao. In the first episode of the video, we followed Cao Cao's footsteps and reviewed his key journey from his birth to his occupation of Yanzhou. We mentioned anecdotes about Cao Cao's extremely intelligent childhood. He participated in the anti-Dong coalition but was defeated. During his period as the governor of Yanzhou, he pacified various rebels and stabilized his foundation. Cao Cao showed military strategy and conspiracy in the struggle to defend against Lu Bu's seizure of power, and finally obtained the official position of Yanzhou County Governor. Now, Cao Cao's career has officially entered a period of development. During this period, he established the elite force of Qizhou soldiers through continuous improvement of training. Cao Cao defeated Yuan Shu one after another, regained the lost territory, and established the Jianghuai stronghold. By this time, the situation in the north had become clear. Cao Cao turned his attention to the dominant Liu Biao in the south, and a thrilling contest was about to begin. Let's continue Cao Cao's journey through history and witness how he carved out a new world in turbulent times. Please follow my footsteps, step on the stage of history, and start the second episode of The Legend of Cao Cao. If you like my content, I hope you can like, collect, share, and subscribe to my channel. Your support is the motivation for me to continue creating. So let's start today's journey of historical exploration. Welcome the Emperor. In July of 195 AD, the warlords Li Ju and Guisi, who were vying for power and profit in the wake of Dongzhuo's death, fell into internal strife. Emperor Xin seized this opportunity to escape the chaos of Chang'an and took refuge in Ani. In the following year, 196 AD, marking the beginning of the Jianan era, Cao Cao heeded the counsel of his advisors Sun Yu and Mao Jie. Recognizing the potential advantage of having the emperor under his control, he moved to Luoyang, the former capital of the Eastern Han Dynasty, which had been largely abandoned since the devastation caused by Dongzhuo. Cao Cao then proceeded to welcome Emperor Xin to establish his court under Cao Cao's protection, a strategic move that would lend legitimacy to his authority and significantly influence the political landscape of the time. Although Emperor Xian of Han and his ministers harbored suspicions about Cao Cao's ambitions and loyalties, Cao Cao demonstrated his commitment to the state by defeating remnants of the Yellow Turban Rebellion, showcasing his dedication to the Han dynasty's welfare. With the capital city of Luoyang left in ruins due to Dongzhuo's earlier sack, the Han court was compelled to relocate. On the Gangwu Day of August, which corresponds to October 7th, 196 AD, the imperial court was moved to Su County in the Yingchuan Commandery. Cao Cao's influence and power continued to rise, and by the Bingshu Day of November, January 1st, 197 AD, he was appointed as the Minister of Works, Sikong, General of the Chariots and Cavalry, and ennobled as the Marquis of Wuping, all the while retaining his position as the Governor of Yanzhou. He was also put in charge of the Imperial Secretariat, effectively taking control of the military and administrative affairs of the Eastern Han government. Even during his time as the Governor of Yanzhou, Cao Cao was contemplating a break with Yuan Shao. After gaining control over Emperor Xin of Han, Cao Cao used the emperor's authority to issue a decree condemning Yuan Shao for amassing a vast territory and a large army while establishing his own partisan network. Failing to actively support the royal cause and instead arbitrarily engaging in warfare, Yuan Shao, feeling unjustly accused, wrote a letter in his defense. To pacify Yuan Shao, who held the position of governor of Jizhou, Cao Cao recommended to Emperor Xin that Yuan Shao be appointed as Grand Commandant, Taiwei. However, Yuan Shao refused to accept a rank subordinate to Cao Cao. He was particularly incensed by what he perceived as Cao Cao's treacherous behavior, said, Cao Cao almost died several times, and I saved him every time. Now is Cao Cao ungrateful and actually holds the emperor hostage to me? Fighting in all directions. In the year 197, during the tumultuous period of the late Eastern Han Dynasty, Cao Cao, the remarkable military strategist and politician of his time, embarked on a campaign against Zhangshou in Nanyang Prefecture. Facing the formidable force of Cao Cao, Zhangshou initially surrendered. However, the situation quickly soured due to a deeply personal grievance. Cao Cao had taken Zhangshou's aunt, the widow of his uncle Zhang Ji, as well as her maid, which deeply embittered Zhangshou. In a sudden turn of events, Zhangshou launched a surprise attack against Cao Cao, which led to a desperate escape for Cao Cao under the protection of his eldest son, Chaoan, his nephew, Chaoanmin, and his trusted officer, Dian Wei. In the chaos, Chaoanmin, and Dian Wei were tragically killed in action. Cao Cao, after regrouping, would go on to attack Zhangshou twice more, but was unable to completely defeat him. 2 years later, taking the advice of his strategist Jia Su, Zhangshou once again surrendered to Cao Cao. This move finally allowed Cao Cao to secure control over the northern part of Jing province, and also to eliminate the threat to Su, the imperial capital, from the south. In December of the year 198, Cao Cao made a tactical move that would seal the fate of the formidable warrior Lu Bu, employing the strategies of his counselors, Sun Yu and Guojia. Cao Cao diverted the waters of the sea and rivers to flood the city of Xiapi. The inundation proved catastrophic for Lu Bu's forces, leading to the capture and execution of Lu Bu himself, along with his close associates Qin Gong and Gao Shan. In a significant turn of events, Zhang Liao, a renowned general under Lu Bu, chose to surrender and was received by Cao Cao, thus extending Cao Cao's influence into the Su province. The following year, in 199, Cao Cao's generals Shi Huan, Cao Ren, Eugene, and Su Huang defeated the remnants of Zhang Yang's forces led by Sui Gu, securing control over the Henei prefecture and expanding Cao Cao's territory north of the Yellow River. In June of that same year, Yuan Shu, once a powerful warlord, found himself cornered and in ill health. He died in Sichuan, and in the aftermath, his followers surrendered to Cao Cao. With this, the entire region of Huainan fell under Cao Cao's dominion, further solidifying his power in the region. Unify the North. In January 200, Dong Qing, the general of the chariots and cavalry, along with Left General Liu Bei, chief commandant of the waters Zhang Ji, generals Wu Xilan, Wang Zifu, and others, claimed to have received a secret imperial edict, which was symbolized by the emperor's jade belt. This edict supposedly commissioned them to conspire to assassinate Cao Cao. However, the plot was discovered. All conspirators, except for Liu Bei, were executed by Cao Cao, and their families were decimated in a traditional punishment meant to eradicate the lineage of those who had committed treason. The pregnant consort Dong, related to the conspirator Dong Qing, was also executed by strangulation due to her association with the plot. Upon hearing of the failed conspiracy and its brutal aftermath, Liu Bei, who was leading troops outside the capital, seized the opportunity to attack and kill the governor of Shuzhou, Cheizhou. Liu Bei then took control of Shuzhou, consolidating his position and power base in the region. This act marked a significant turning point, as Liu Bei would later become one of the founding figures of the Shu Han state during the Three Kingdoms period. Cao Cao, anticipating the eventual confrontation with the powerful warlord Yuan Shao, decided to eliminate the threat posed by Liu Bei, who had recently established a precarious position in Shuzhou. At the time, Cao Cao's generals were apprehensive about the possibility of Yuan Shao taking advantage of the situation to attack Su, the capital at that time. However, Cao Cao is confident in his strategy and is quoted as saying, "Liu Bei is a hero among men. If we do not strike now, he will surely become a future threat." Though Yuan Shao has grand ambitions, he is slow to respond to events and will surely not act. With that, Cao Cao advanced his forces swiftly against Liu Bei, attacking with such speed that Liu Bei's defenses were overrun before they could adequately respond. Liu Bei was forced to flee and seek refuge with Yuan Shao, effectively removing his immediate influence from Shuzhou and securing Cao Cao's rear from potential threats as he prepared for the inevitable conflict with Yuan Shao. Yuan Shao indeed was a formidable power in northern China during the late Eastern Han Dynasty. His family, starting from his great-grandfather Yuanan, had held significant political positions, with members serving in the 3 highest offices of the state over 4 generations. The network of his family's former officials and students was vast and extended throughout the empire, providing a substantial power base. After securing control over the provinces of Qi, Bing, Yu, and Qing, Yuan Shao's power was greatly enhanced. His forces reportedly numbered in the hundreds of thousands, a formidable military presence that few could rival at the time. By placing his eldest son Yuan Tan, second son Yuan Shi, and nephew Gao Gan in charge of Qing, Yu, and Bing provinces respectively, Yuan Shao ensured the security of his rear and maintained a strong and well-provisioned army. Yuan Shao's confidence in his military might was such that he did not regard Cao Cao as a significant threat. With an elite force of 100,000 troops and 10,000 cavalry, Yuan Shao was poised to strike a decisive blow against Cao Cao, aiming to eliminate him in one fell swoop. This set the stage for one of the most significant conflicts of the era, the Battle of Guandu, where these 2 colossal forces would clash, influencing the course of Chinese history and the eventual establishment of the 3 kingdoms. In the 5th year of Jianan, 200 AD, Yuan Shao commanded his generals, including Yin Liang, to advance to Beima while he himself led a large army to Liyang east of modern-day Jun County, Hunan, initiating an offensive against Cao Cao. Cao Cao's strength was indeed significantly weaker than Yuan Shao's at this time. The territory Cao Cao controlled south of the Yellow River was not only smaller and had been a battleground for repeated conflicts, but it was also still recovering and lacked the abundant resources that Yuan Shao possessed. Regarding military strength, Cao Cao's forces were substantially outnumbered by Yuan Shao's. It is recorded that Cao Cao's total military might have been just tens of thousands, and the forces he could commit to the front line were, according to the Annals of Emperor Wu, less than 10,000, with a casualty rate of about 30%. He Songji, a noted commentator on the historical text records of the 3 kingdoms, suggested that this number might not be accurate and that Cao Cao's forces could not have been so few. Nonetheless, there is no doubt that Cao Cao was at a numerical disadvantage compared to Yuan Shao. In the 5th year of Jianan, 200 AD, Yuan Shao commanded his generals, including Yin Liang, to advance to Beima while he himself led a large army to Liyang east of modern-day Jun County, Hunan, initiating an offensive against Cao Cao. Cao Cao's strength was indeed significantly weaker than Yuan Shao's at this time. The territory Cao Cao controlled south of the Yellow River was not only smaller and had been a battleground for repeated conflicts, but it was also still recovering and lacked the abundant resources that Yuan Shao possessed. In February, the stage was set for a significant conflict as Yuan Shao's general, Yin Liang, and others laid siege to Beima, signaling the start of a major campaign known historically as the Battle of Guandu. The Battle of Guandu is renowned for its strategic brilliance, particularly on the part of Cao Cao, who, despite being outnumbered, utilized his keen understanding of the enemy and superior tactics to outmaneuver and defeat the larger forces of Yuan Shao. This battle was a turning point in the power struggle during the late Eastern Han Dynasty, significantly weakening Yuan Shao's position and allowing Cao Cao to establish dominance in the north of China, paving the way for the foundation of the state of Cao Wei in the Three Kingdoms period. In April, Cao Cao himself took command to lift the siege of Beima, following the strategy of his advisor Sun Yu. He marched his army towards Yanjing, feigning a crossing of the river to attack Yuan Shao's forces. This ruse succeeded in drawing Yuan Shao's troops westward. Cao Cao then quickly changed direction and made a rapid advance to Beima. The sudden arrival of Cao Cao's forces took Yuan Shao's army by surprise, leading to the slaying of Yin Liang by Guan Yu, a warrior serving under Liu Bei who was at that time allied with Cao Cao. Yuan Shao's forces were soundly defeated, and the siege of Beima was lifted. Cao Cao evacuated the military and civilians from Beima and began a westward retreat along the Yellow River. Yuan Shao, upon hearing of the defeat, immediately ordered Wen Chou and Liu Bei to cross the river and pursue Cao Cao. Cao Cao, noticing the pursuers drawing near, ordered his soldiers to discard their saddles and release the horses, scattering supplies across the path. When Yuan Shao's pursuing forces arrived, they scrambled for the supplies, throwing their formation into disarray. Seizing the moment, Cao Cao led a cavalry charge that broke through the disorganized troops, resulting in the death of Wen Chou. The defeat caused great shock within Yuan Shao's ranks. After this initial victory, Cao Cao prudently withdrew his forces, continuing to fortify his position at Guandu. In August, Yuan Shao's massive army advanced, stretching tens of miles from east to west, forming their camps upon the sandy mounds, and pressed towards Guandu. Cao Cao, in response, divided his forces to fortify the camps, waiting for an opportune moment to strike. Yuan Shao's army launched fierce assaults on Cao Cao's encampments. They began by constructing tall watchtowers and earthen ramps to shoot arrows down into Cao Cao's camp. Following this, they attempted to tunnel underground to attack from beneath, but all these tactics were countered by Cao Cao's deployment of rock-throwing machines and the digging of defensive trenches. The two armies were locked in this pattern of assault and defense for nearly 2 months. As the siege dragged on, Cao Cao found himself in an increasingly precarious situation. In October, Yuan Shao had transported over 10,000 carts of provisions from Hebei, guarded by General Chun Yuqiang among others, with more than 10,000 troops stationed at Wuchao, which was 40 miles away from Yuan Shao's main camp. At this time, Yuan Shao's strategist Su Yu, resentful because his plan to attack Shudu had been rejected and his family in Hebei had been arrested for crimes, defected to Cao Cao. Su Yu suggested a surprise attack on Wuchao. Cao Cao, overjoyed by the prospect, greeted Su Yu barefooted as a sign of respect. He then personally led an elite force of 5,000 infantry and cavalry. The troops carried their orders in their mouths, and the horses' mouths were bound to silence them. They disguised themselves in Yuan Shao's army's uniforms and took a secret path to launch a night raid on Wuchao. As Cao Cao's forces reached Wuchao, they set fires on all sides, throwing Yuan Shao's troops into disarray. Chun Yuqiang desperately held his position. When Yuan Shao heard the news, he hastily dispatched soldiers to aid Wuchao. Cao Cao's generals suggested dividing their forces to repel the approaching enemy cavalry. Cao Cao furiously declared, "The enemy is behind us. Now is the time for action." His soldiers fought with desperate courage, resulting in a crushing defeat for Yuan Shao's forces, the execution of Chun Yuqiang, and the complete destruction of the grain supplies. Upon hearing of Cao Cao's attack on Wuchao, Yuan Shao perceived it as an opportune moment to breach Cao Cao's main camp and sent only a small force to assist Wu Chu while he besieged Cao Cao's main stronghold. However, Cao Cao had anticipated such a move and left a strong, well-prepared force behind. His camp remained unbreached, and as news of the defeat at Wuchao spread, Yuan Shao's generals, including Zhang He and Gao Lan, defected to Cao Cao, leading to the disintegration of Yuan Shao's army. After the disastrous defeat, Yuan Shao abandoned his army and fled back to the north of the Yellow River. Cao Cao's forces achieved a complete victory, beheading more than 70,000 of Yuan Shao's soldiers and seizing all of his military supplies, including treasures and books. Upon inspecting the captured documents, Cao Cao found letters indicating that some of his own officers had been in correspondence with Yuan Shao. He burned all these letters, stating, "When Shao was powerful, I was hardly able to protect myself, let alone others." Objectively, Cao Cao is at a disadvantage, but his ability to correctly analyze the situation and to listen to and act on good advice allowed him to utilize his strengths and avoid weaknesses. By adopting the right strategies and tactics, he was able to turn the war in his favor. Through his own subjective efforts, he ultimately secured victory. The Battle of Guandu was indeed a pivotal moment in Chinese military history. Cao Cao, facing the numerically superior forces of Yuan Shao, managed to secure a decisive victory, setting the stage for his eventual unification of northern China. This battle is often cited as a classic example of a smaller, ostensibly weaker force overcoming a larger, stronger one through superior strategy, tactics, and leadership. Cao Cao's triumph at Guandu demonstrated his military acumen and his ability to capitalize on his enemy's weaknesses. Despite being outnumbered, Cao Cao's forces were better organized, more disciplined, and more adaptable to changing circumstances on the battlefield. The battle also showcased the importance of intelligence and deception in warfare, with Cao Cao making effective use of spies and misinformation to undermine Yuan Shao's efforts. Moreover, the defection of Yuan Shao's advisors, such as Su Yu, to Cao Cao's side was a significant turning point. Their inside knowledge and strategic advice gave Cao Cao the edge he needed to target Yuan Shao's supplies at Wuchao, which was a masterstroke that led to the collapse of Yuan Shao's military might. The Battle of Guandu not only shaped the course of Chinese history by paving the way for Cao Cao's dominance in the north, but also left a lasting legacy on military strategy and the art of war. In the May of the year 202, amidst the sprawling lands of ancient China, the winds of change were stirring. Yuan Shao, a warlord of great ambition and prowess during the era of the Three Kingdoms, passed away, setting the stage for a new chapter of power struggle. His favored third son, Yuan Shang, succeeded him, taking up the mantle of Grand General and the governor of Ji Province. But the seeds of discord had been sown. Yuan Shao's sons, Yuan Tan and Yuan Shang, were locked in animosity, leading to a fiery clash of wills and armies. The battle between brothers was fierce, and when the dust settled, Yuan Tan found himself on the losing side. In a twist of fate, he turned to Cao Cao, a rising power in the land, seeking refuge and surrendering to the man who would one day become the foundation of the Wei Kingdom. In the year 204, as the brothers Yuan Tan and Yuan Shang were embroiled in their own internal conflict, Cao Cao seized the moment. With calculated precision, he marshaled his forces and captured the city of Yi, a strategic stronghold of the Yuan family. Yuan Shang, in a desperate bid to reclaim his lost territory, rallied his troops and set up camp along the Fuyang River, which we know today as the Fuyang River. However, Cao Cao, ever the tactician, advanced and laid siege to Yuan Shang's encampment. Surrounded and overwhelmed by fear, Yuan Shang pleaded for surrender, but Cao Cao, sensing the full victory within his grasp, refused. Under the cloak of night, Yuan Shang attempted a stealthy escape, leading to the disintegration of his forces. With nowhere else to turn, Yuan Shang fled to Zhongshan. Meanwhile, Cao Cao, in a display of strategic ingenuity, presented the captured seals and staff of authority of Yuan Shang to the defending troops of Yi, eroding their will to fight. The defenses of Yi crumbled, and Cao Cao successfully breached the city walls. From that year onward, Cao Cao moved his base of operations northward to the captured city of Yi in Ji province. It became the epicenter of his expanding power, issuing orders and commanding his troops, while the Han Emperor Xian's capital in Xuchang was left with only a skeleton crew of officials. In the year 205, Cao Cao, with his ever-expanding ambition, turned his attention towards Qishou, which he swiftly brought under his control. Not one to rest on his laurels, he soon accused Yuan Tan of breaking an agreement and used this pretext to launch an attack, effectively extinguishing Yuan Tan's forces. With the pacification of both Ji and Qing provinces, Cao Cao consolidated his power further. Subsequently, in a show of strategic humility and political maneuvering, Cao Cao petitioned to resign from his position as the governor of Yin province in exchange for the governorship of Ji province. Meanwhile, the defeated Yuan Shang fled to the protection of Yuan Shi, the inspector of Yuzhou. However, safety was not to be found there, and soon after, both Yuan Shang and Yuan Shi found themselves fleeing once more, this time to the Wuhuan tribes of the three counties. In a significant turn of events that same year, Zhang Yin, the leader of the Heishan army, along with his followers numbering over 100,000, surrendered to Cao Cao, further bolstering Cao Cao's might. Then, in 206, Cao Cao's campaign continued unabated as he quelled the rebellion of Gao Gan and Bingzhou, further solidifying his control over the North China Plain. In the year 207, Cao Cao set out on a campaign against the Wuhuan, decisively defeating and executing their leader, Taduan. It was during this northern expedition, however, that tragedy struck Cao Cao's ranks. His trusted strategist, Guojia, a man of profound wisdom who had been instrumental in many of Cao Cao's victories, succumbed to illness. The combination of the unfamiliar climate, relentless urgency of the campaign, and overexertion proved too much for Guojia, and he passed away before Cao Cao's return south. Meanwhile, Yuan Shang and Yuan Shi, who had been routed, fled to Liaodong. There, they met their demise at the hands of the local governor, Gong Sun Kong, who sought to prove his allegiance to Cao Cao. In a macabre gesture of fealty, Gong Sun Kong sent the heads of the Yuan brothers to Cao Cao, delivered by the detained scholar Liang Mao. With these decisive actions, Cao Cao brought to an end the 7-year-long war, completely obliterating the Yuan faction and effectively unifying the northern territories of China. This not only solidified his power, but also laid the groundwork for the establishment of the Kingdom of Wei, marking a pivotal point in the history of the three kingdoms. Cao Cao, a man who rose from humble beginnings and had connections with the eunuchs, was known not for his adherence to the Confucian classics, but for his profound understanding of poetry and literature, in a move that set him apart from the scholarly elites of his time, who were steeped in the study of Confucian texts. Cao Cao issued an edict known as the Order for the Seeking of the Wise, which emphasized the importance of talent over virtue. He wielded the strategies of legalism to govern and aimed to break the stranglehold of the powerful clans on Confucian academia. Despite his origins and unorthodox approach, Cao Cao was a visionary leader who commanded the allegiance of many from the lower echelons of society and, notably, even from among the Confucian scholars and gentry. Such was the case with Sun Yu, and Zhong Yao, prominent figures who not only supported Cao Cao but also introduced a multitude of talents from the scholarly class into his service. Cao Cao's era was marked by a melting pot of ideologies, where the practicalities of legalist governance coexisted with the philosophical musings of the literati. This blending of diverse schools of thought under the banner of a single, charismatic leader reveals much about the complexity of power dynamics in ancient China. Dear listeners, the second issue of The Legend of Cao Cao is now online. The next issue will be even more exciting. This will be the last installment of Cao Cao's legendary story. Narrate the famous and wonderful Battle of Chibi, how to complete the process of becoming king and emperor and establishing the Wei Kingdom, including the eastward expedition to Lubu and the westward expedition to Ma Chao and Liaozhou. There are also reforms such as the title of the king and the establishment of a 9-level Zhongxing system. End of life. I invite you to share your thoughts on this historical narrative. Were there any moments that surprised you, or aspects of Cao Cao's life that you see reflected in the modern world? Please join the conversation by leaving a comment below. And if you enjoyed this journey through history, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more stories from the past. See you next time.